Hello and welcome back to another happy hour. I'm Ryan Fring, creative director here at Backflip, and I'm about 99% sure we have audio, but Carolyn will definitely let me know if we do not. Um, Joining me as always, we've got John Shoemaker over here, other creative director. Say hey, John.
Hello, that is me.
Can you
I'm
sh-
John.
can you share your shirt a little bit? You got a pretty awesome shirt on
Oh,
today.
yeah. I was wearing
There we
my
go.
bad.
You ain't bleep if you ain't repping, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you got for our happy hour today? What are you drinking?
Well, a little bit of coffee in a handmade
Look
mug.
at that mug.
That mug.
I don't know that I don't remember seeing that one or using that one. You must have just kept that in your office.
Well, it's been in here for a couple days anyway. My wife made all these
That's
mugs for
awesome.
us.
I also
But
have one of those.
even more importantly, it just felt like an eggnog day. We had eggnog in the fridge, so don't
Eggnog.
know when it's from.
Eggnog liqueur. It's the liquor will kill the bacteria.
Yeah. Yes.
I also have one of these awesome Amanda made mugs. They're still branded. Mario's got our little chevron there, so it's pretty great. But I've got the new high alcohol, what is it? Chuhi from Carbon 4, which is pretty sweet. So that's what I'm enjoying. But you didn't come here for us to talk about what we're drinking. You came here to drink with us and hear from our guest. So I'd like, here we go, let me find that button, to introduce our guest for today. We've got Ashley Taylor here with us. Hey, Ashley.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going, yeah.
What do you have to drink right now?
Boring. I have coffee in my Mama Llama mug
I love
that's
that
not
mug.
handmade. Your guys' mugs are way cooler. And then I also have bottle water. So
Nice.
that's it.
I love that llama too. My wife's family had a llama for a little while, which was the weirdest thing ever. But
Yeah.
put
Just like one by
just
itself
one
with
by
the
itself. Yeah, it was totally super weird. But we're also not here to talk about my llamas. Uh,
What
awesome.
would be your drink of choice were you not?
Um, so I was thinking earlier this week that I was going to go with one of the Carbon 4 seltzers that are not super high in alcohol because I
mhm.
thought that might like be a little bit, responsible in case my boss decides to tune in. But things happen throughout the week and I've got to drive, so not, and I've got my daughter 10 feet away. So
Got to be responsible.
yeah,
We can respect that.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. We have kind of in the title below, you're an account executive um, for a TV station, and you're the American Advertising Federation Madison president. So just who are you?
Yeah.
What is your daddy and what does he do?
Uh, so I mean, I can talk about my dad. So so I've been with NBC 15 for a little over 11 years now. It was my first job right out of college. And I'm originally from, I always say like Beloit and Janesville because I graduated from Janesville High School, but I'm originally from Beloit. So I moved to Madison to be a little bit closer to home after my last year of school. Was lucky enough to get this job. Probably didn't, think I was going to be here as long as I have been, but just started to settle down, started a family, and now it's been, it'll be 12 years in June. So that's how I came about that. And with AAF, I actually went to UW Oshkosh and joined. I went for journalism and emphasized in advertising and public relations, and then minored in marketing. And joined like every extracurricular club. I mean, that's exaggerating, but I did like ad club and the Public Relations Student Society of America. I was randomly like in the sociology club too, which I think I took like Social 101, but for some reason was like in that club. But so I did the National Student Advertising Competition while I was there, and that's sponsored by the Fox Valley. I don't know if sponsored is the correct terminology, but that is the Fox Valley AAF partners with the university up there. So that's how
Oh,
I became involved with AAF. And with Oshkosh being just a smaller school, I was able to form some really solid connections with the faculty and a lot of the other students there. And it just seemed like, this is what you do after you graduate and you get an adult job, is then you just join the professional organizations within whatever industry you're in. So as soon as I got to Madison, I was like, all right, well, time to join AdFed. And my now boss was like, no, I'm going to join AdFed, and you can join the younger version called Ad2. So I did Ad2 Madison, which we are now officially partnered with at AAF again. And so, yeah, I've just eventually got back into AAF after a few years, and I've been on the board for a very long time. And I mean, if there's ever going to be a year for me to be president, like it would be 2020. So that's what I do, I guess, in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's great. And you had mentioned here. Oh, what happened? Trying to transition. You had mentioned that before too, and I was like, I have so many follow-ups, but I'm not going to ask these questions. But yeah, being the president of an advertising club, that a lot of what we do, the events, obviously we get together, but a lot of our work requires getting together. What was that like? Like, when did your year start? Did it start like in the pandemic, or did it start before?
Yeah. So typically we change over in June, and then we do our planning session in July, and typically the new president then kind of takes over and runs with it. But because of the pandemic and there were so many things up in the air, everything was kind of pushed back a little bit. So I would say that I officially took over in September. So yeah, in the middle of the pandemic. Last year, of course, obviously I was vice president, and I was in charge of the vice president handles the programming and networking events that we do. Not networking events, I'm sorry, the educational events, our luncheons we typically do. So I do remember in March, I remember the beginning of the week, reaching out to who is going to be our speaker, that next following week. And I'm like, yeah, we were flying him out from DC. And I just remember saying, our numbers aren't quite where we'd like them to be. If you want to postpone this, we want to make sure that this is worthwhile for you too. And he's like, yeah, let's give it a few more days. And then I remember us kind of gathering, and we were like, well, what's going on here? Like, this is a great speaker. And I remember saying, like, I don't want to sound like I'm paranoid, but do you think this? I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. I remember saying, do you think this coronavirus thing has something to do with it? And our now VP, Megan, was like, yeah, I think it could. And then within a week, everything was shut down. I just very vividly remember that conversation, and then everything happened. So yeah, it's been interesting. And, I think we're all just really trying to make sure that our members are getting value. I know every single meeting, I feel like I'm just saying that over and over again, how can we drive more value? And we've got a great group on the board this year. Sorry, Anna.
I will point out, I love, you shared earlier, you gave your dog a fake bottle of peanut butter to.
So it's a jar. I knew this was going to come up as soon as I said it too. So the jar was real, but I am allergic to peanut butter, so it's fake peanut butter.
Okay.
It's wow butter, which is soy.
Sure. But some kind of real food that he can eat. It's not like he's not just in plastic.
Yeah, I was hoping that she would, because usually she'll take it and lick the jar out and demolish it and be gone for a few hours, but of course not.
That's all right. We'll have her on the show if we need to.
Yeah. Yeah, she's made many appearances on my Zoom meetings over the last few months.
Yeah. So what's that been like? Just that major shift. You kind of saw the writing on the wall. You called it right there for that event, but you didn't necessarily sign up for this. But you are the president that we have, and you get the joy of dealing with it. So what's that been like?
Yeah. So lucky for everyone, it's me. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really want to lead the organization through this and make sure that we're in a solid position moving forward. And I think that we just got such a great group of people on the board this year who genuinely care about the organization and our goals. that, I mean, it's been challenging just because, you know, we are a nonprofit organization and we want to figure out, of course, how we can continue operating. But then with the main thing we do is networking and educational events. So trying to figure out how we can still provide these events, you know, in the virtual space when there's so much free educational content out there, you know, and we're not providing lunches and we don't have the cost of you know, renting our space and all that. So we did move over to offering our events free for the time being, but then at the same time, we still need to generate revenue. So there's, you know, that's been a little bit of a hurdle. And I think we're just moving through it the best way that we can. Our partnership with Add2, I think, is great. And there's a lot of good things in the works from our board members and just certain collaborations that I know are being talked about on that end too. So I keep mentioning Add2, but so Add2 is essentially just the organization that is for 18 to 32-year-olds within our advertising industry. And we're now partnered with them. So they're also a national organization, excuse me. So partnering with them too, I think has been really helpful. Their events, of course, target more of the younger professional demographic, but I mean, they have an amazing group too of just people who are really on it and in the know about everything too. So I don't want to say like everything's great and everything's, you know, hasn't been challenging, but I think, you know, we're doing what we can and we've got a lot of support at the district level as well. We've done a couple of partnership events with the Fox River Ad Club too. So I feel good about where we are and where we're heading. So fine, everything's fine.
She says with a smile on her face.
I think it's great that you are in the position you are because you need a person with the right personality to keep everyone encouraged. I'm not sure how well most people would do. I feel like a lot of people would just be like, all right, not doing this year, just come back next year, we'll try this again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's really isn't an option. I mean, if that would have been presented to me, I don't know that I would have been like, nah, you know, just kidding. But I mean, yeah, it's a club that, like I said, I have a long history with, and I know I mentioned in like the little bio that I sent over too. But with what I do on a daily basis, I don't really have the opportunity to dive into any sort of creative aspects of our industry or really to connect with people and learn about, you know, even things like this, like podcasting and writing and some of the things that initially drew me to try to join this industry in the first place. So that's what AdFed has given me. And I just feel like, you know, even if I stay in the position I'm in with the company that I'm at for, you know, 11, 15, you know, 30 more years, I feel like this club helps round me out, not only as a professional, but as an individual. So I feel like really passionate about making sure that it succeeds and that our members are getting what they want from it. And, you know, I mean, we're living in such a, even pre-pandemic, such a virtual world now. I just think there's so much value in in-person connections. And, you know, that's another thing that our club normally would really offer. So,
yeah. So what is kind of your jam? And that kind of ties into like, what does an account exec look like at NBC for you?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's sales. Like, so we have NBC 15 and then we have Madison CW, which of course are our two main broadcast networks. And then we also have a host of digital advertising as well. So now I would say most of my clients are running on broadcast and then doing some element of over the top or OTT. So, which is advertising, as I'm sure you guys know, on streaming platforms, which I think has been very successful. I sat in on a webinar the other day, then I'm not a huge fan of how they positioned it, but I guess, you know, to each their own, but they said OTT is like our generation's cable. I don't know. But we do sell that. We have a really great partner for that. And we sell a lot of targeted digital advertising and that kind of stuff. So for me as an account executive, I mean, I won't say that every single client I've ever worked with is just like, you know, doing amazing. I mean, I've been here long enough where, there've been I've tripped and stumbled plenty, but I do personally really try to understand the what my clients are looking for as business owners or marketing directors, or even with some of the larger agencies that I work with. So I work mostly, it's on a one-on-one level with local business owners or their marketing directors. But then I also, my team as well,
Mm-hmm.
also works with regional. So like a larger account that I work with, for example, is the Chevrolet dealers. So that would be not on their national marketing, of course, but on their regional marketing efforts that they place for the entire brand for the Midwest. And then, so feel like I'm just kind of rambling, but so there's a lot of different aspects to what I do, but the main
Mm-hmm.
thing, of course, but I do try to make sure that I'm understanding what the client's needs and goals are. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think most salespeople would probably say that they're trying to be solution-based sales people these days. Can't handle it. So to completely switch subjects, we have a golf cart that zooms around in front of where we live. And
You have a
my
what?
dog,
What'd you say?
a golf cart.
Oh,
Like, yeah, so we're like in an apartment, and the property manager is just always going back and forth in this golf cart, and my dog is like 11 pounds, and it drives her nuts. I mean, she will spy it like, she's doing it right now, and so the
she's
other
got to
day I was
protect you
like,
from all the large things.
Yeah.
but then it's like we were walking yesterday, and I'm like, the golf cart's like parked, and I'm like, okay, Ruby, this is your chance. Like, he's gone, I don't know where he is, the property manager. I'm like, what are you gonna do? And she's not bothered by it at all. She doesn't like smell it. She doesn't even go near it. And I'm like, how many Zoom calls have you interrupted for this chance? And you're not even gonna smell it?
All bark and no bite.
Exactly. Yeah.
You get her a golf cart chew toy.
Yes.
Start
Yeah.
training. That's
The
right.
Yes.
That's awesome. And maybe we'll have to meet her at some point during this live stream.
There's a solid chance, but she's usually like right next to me asking to be like held, or
Yeah.
so ridiculous. But yeah, I digress. So that's pretty much what I do. I do try to, I think a lot of businesses who are working with local television find a lot of value with having that connection with the community, which of course, local news is going to be your biggest connection to that. So whenever possible, if I can work with our promotions department, or if I can like put a positive plug in for news, like obviously we can't ever promise any sort of coverage, but I do try to make those connections to, whenever it works. So that's my pitch for my job.
Yeah. Well, and you had said like, talking about being there for the next 11 years, 15 years, 30 years, like what about this gets you excited, Because I imagine I do a lot of sales. John does a lot of sales. We also, though, we call ourselves creative directors. So, we can call ourselves whatever we want, but then we get to write and direct. So we do get that creative outlet. And that allows me to be refreshed when I have to do, a survey and come up with the needs document and figure out how we could serve somebody and come up with a proposal and, all the making donuts work, as a friend of ours says. But what about it? Like, what gets you going? What gets you excited about it all?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, I mean, I don't know that I won't say that I like never thought I would be a salesperson, but I don't really know that anybody is like in college and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be an account executive when I grow up. We all have to like,
There's some.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know really. Once I realized very quickly within the School of Journalism that like, I'm not really cut out for like news, like news writing or broadcasting. So, so I like, I mean, the flexibility. So I'm a single mom. So the flexibility that I have within the workday, it has been, I mean, it's kind of odd, but not so much during the pandemic, just because I'm like, I feel more tied to my computer than I ever have. But just having the flexibility of like being out and about throughout the day has always been very helpful for me and for her. And also,
sorry, you could see the question that I'm typing coming up. I apologize to interrupt you with that.
Okay. But so, okay, so I get excited about about just the connections that I make with people. I genuinely have found that, over the years I've come out of my shell a little bit. I know people are always like, not always, but some people are surprised to hear that I'm kind of like introverted naturally. So I feel like it's really being in sales has really helped me kind of find my voice and my personality and my approach to people. I really do genuinely like meeting new people and learning. I always say I learn a little bit about a lot of things, but there are some industries that I just like really feel like I know a lot about now. So I think that's kind of cool. I feel like, that's enabled me to be able to have a conversation with pretty much anybody in any situation. And I mean, I can't lie, like selling feels good. Like I said, like I'm a single mom and um, I hate to say it, but it's like having the financial independence here is nice. But it feels good. It's like you accomplish something and then not only making the sale though, but when you're executing the strategy that you actually put so much time into, putting together and presenting and it works, then it's like, oh, like I do kind of know what I'm doing. I'm not just out here like selling whatever. And like, I don't want to say that because that sounds really like I don't know what I'm doing, but it is really nice to see those plans come to fruition and see, hear the client say like, hey, I got these phone calls because of this, or somebody told me they saw me on TV or whatever. So that's always really, really nice. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm also like kind of a nerd too, and that I like actually really like putting the proposals together and digging up a lot of data to back up whatever I'm like pitching. So I really probably spend way more time on the like physical proposal than my managers would like. But I mean, I used to want to be in creative, so that's probably why. Yeah, yeah.
Ryan, your audio's not on right now.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Our people who are commenting are so great. They're like, Ryan, you're the worst. No, they're great. Thank you, Hannah and Amanda. I do it to cough or to burp because this bubbly stuff is so bubbly.
Yeah.
So the other side of this is that I just burp on mic and it'd be terrible. Where's it going? Oh,
2020.
proposals. Oh my
Anything
gosh.
goes.
This keeps happening too because I'm also the one managing things. So I feel like I'm an organ player, just doing it like this, and occasionally I miss one of the buttons, specifically my mic button. um, yeah, so doing proposals and stuff, being in the film industry, we kind of have that creative film bend to it. So we put like a large creative section into our proposals, and it's the other parts that I don't always like, but I feel like I'm also kind of like you in that I really get into it because what you can do is you get into this headspace of how do we make them successful or how do we make people buy their thing or go to their website or
Yeah.
do whatever the goal is. And part of that is like research, like who's doing what out there, and you can find really cool stuff. And that's why I love AAF. That's why I love MMP, and that's why I love our advertising kind of in the Midwest here because we share this stuff. We talk about it. Um, we may be competitors with certain companies, but we're like, hey, how'd you do this? That was awesome. And I think we all get better because of that. And the advertising that we do gets better because of that. So that thing that you just said really resonates with me as a creative. So I think, and you might not think you're creative because you might not be doing like, you might be writing a script or doing something that you think is more creative. But I think that type of work is extremely creative. And it's honestly, it's fundamental to the project because that kind of sets the course.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's definitely not as much fun as like, going on a commercial shoot. And like I went to a commercial shoot for one of my clients earlier today and I brought my daughter and my dog with me. And she's like, there's like the one producer out there because, COVID, like we're operating on, bare bones staff. But she's like, okay, so who are these people and what do they do and who's on TV? And like, this is not what I thought you did, mommy. This is not cool. And so, but I mean, those things are usually more fun, but
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant to like really pitch a big creative idea to a client because it's like, it's not really my specialty. So, bring in, we have, of course, our own creative services department too. So I try to bounce ideas off of them
Mm-hmm.
if I'm ever going to do that, to hopefully be like on the right track. And, then if it goes down in flames, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that goes into selling, which I think Ryan and I have, learned over the years as well. And we never didn't set out with the intention to be doing that kind of work all the time. But helping your clients see the value in what you're trying to sell them, that's a challenge, and that's a creative thing. And it's also like, I actually really do care. Like, we're not, I shouldn't pick on any salesman since this is kind of a sales themed thing, but we're not used car salesmen. Like,
Right.
we're like, I think that this is valuable for you. And if it's not, I don't want you to take it. Like, I want you to see the return on this and feel good about it later. This should be a win-win. Like, this
Right.
is, a sale that I'm working on, but I want you to like see the benefit in it. And a lot of times, you have to educate people on what is this product, because it's kind of an intangible thing. Like, everyone's like seen a commercial, but they just don't know
Mm-hmm.
what goes into it, and they don't know what
Yeah.
that process is and how you build that product. Not a physical thing. I can't just, here, buy this thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's even like for people who are not in this industry who, I just meet and want to ask me what I do. It's like, I feel like it's hard for people to really even understand. I'm like, I sell commercials, but yeah, it's like, um, it is like I really am interested in, like I said, like the data and the research and just finding out. It's just so interesting, right? To just like learn how people's minds operate and what
Mm.
motivates them to do certain things and what motivates consumer behavior and like the psychology behind it and all the different steps and levels that, that people actions that people take before they actually make a purchase. It's just like, I don't know, that kind of stuff I just like really geek out on. But yeah, it is. I remember like when I started my first year here, it was like so overwhelming and crazy. And I was so young. I just was like, I'm going to stay here for like, a couple of years and then I'm going to move to Florida because that's what my plans were. But that first year was so hard and I like cried a lot. And I just remember thinking like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to, make some good sales and then I'm out. But then when you start to make the good sales and you have those relationships and you're hearing like that it's working and you start to feel validated and then like, you know, like I said, like financially, you're like, oh, this is actually could be like a really good job,
Mm-hmm.
if I just like keep doing this. Um, and that's another thing too, is it's like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a trap, but it becomes like you're continuously selling your clients, that you have, you're continuously educating them. You're continuing. I mean, some of these people now I've worked with pretty much since I started. So, I mean, some of my clients are like, I see more than my friends. I talk to them more than certain family members.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ongoing process of educating and making sure that their plan still works. And if it's not working, what can we do to keep it? Is it a creative or is it, maybe where we're scheduling their commercials or maybe their website's not completely up to date or maybe, maybe everything's going really well, but their search engine is way off. I mean, it's just like, there's just so much these days, but yeah, that's what I geek out on.
I'm really curious too. What about, in the beginning really affected you? You mentioned you cried a lot. What affected you, and then how did you get over that? And what? Because
I
I'm
did
sure. What's that?
in the beginning.
Yeah.
I said I did too in the
Well,
beginning.
it's because I made you cry a lot. What was that, and how did you overcome that?
I mean, I won't name names. I have people that make me cry too, but it just, there's so much rejection.
Mm,
And I was like, I was just so young and naive,
mm-hmm.
going into this. And it's like, well, I have this, like, you want to be on TV, don't you? Like, why wouldn't you want to be on TV? This is NBC. Like, 99.9% of the people within Southern Wisconsin can see you. Why wouldn't you want to be on TV? And when people would say no, it was like, I would just take it so personal. And there were some other like weird competitive things going on in the market at the time. Like the person whose list I had kind of taken over had gone to a competitor of ours. And, you know, people were telling me like, she's out there personally attacking you. And I was like, why? You know, she doesn't even know me.
Yeah.
I'm still living in my parents' house, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it just, that I just like wasn't prepared for how, you know, I guess how much rejection there is going to be. And also I started in the recession. And so I was handed this list and I would call on these businesses and they're like, yeah, no, I can hardly keep my lights on. Leave me alone. You know, I was hung up on all the time. I mean, that's maybe excessive, but I don't feel like grasping the industry or media was my biggest challenge because, you know, I actually did go to school for, you know, for advertising and public relations. So I felt like I had a decent grasp on that, but it was just like finding the nerve to actually like walk into a business and say like, hi, I'm Ashley Taylor and I want to talk to you about your advertising and, you know, and give people actually a reason to talk to me when I'm so, you know, you're so young and you really don't know what you're talking about. So overcoming that, I mean, I would say I just have always kind of been that person. Like, I wasn't like, well, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. That was never like a thought in my mind, but I'm like, you know, I'm going to do this because I can. Like, there's no reason why, excuse me, why I can't figure this out. And I feel like I had very supportive managers, and some of my coworkers who are still there and some who have gone were really supportive too. And joining Ad2, I also felt was kind of, you know, kind of empowering, you know, connecting with some other young professionals. So I think really with probably any sales, but with this specifically, it just takes time to really, you know, find your niche and, you know, figure out what sets you apart, what sets your products apart. And really, I mean, you have to have a couple of those clients that you work with who actually are seeing success to really like give yourself some self-esteem too. Because otherwise, you know, you're walking in and talking to these businessmen who've been in business, you know, like twice my lifespan. Kind of intimidating. So
yeah, I feel like our story is very similar. John and I talk about this too. Like, we would go in and we'd be selling something, and one time we did get a question like, or a comment that was essentially, you're the same age as my son who lives in my basement on the couch, you know. And so that, whether intentionally or not, certainly played into that sale, you know, from his perspective. I can't remember, you might remember, John, if we ended up doing that work or not, but that's always stuck in my mind of, you know, how we can be exceptional is like, you know, we need to be so exceptional that even despite our age or despite where we're located in the Midwest or despite any of this stuff, people want what we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gaining that confidence too of like, you know, you feel like you're young and you don't know what you're doing, but you actually do. You know, like when you think about the business that you're going into, you know, Bob's carpet sales, like what does he know about advertising and marketing? I mean, maybe a little bit because he's maybe done some with his business, but that's not what he does. He like makes quality carpets out of whatever material, and he can tell you all these things. But so I think any young person starting out, you have to kind of like grab hold of that. Like, no, I actually do have expertise in this area. And then we have to overcome the boundaries that, you know, of like, how old are you?
Ageism.
Whatever.
Yeah. I think for me too, it was also, and I mean, I've obviously been at this company for such a long time, so I do believe in the product, but yeah, like I have something that is valuable that does work. I'm not, you know, like you said earlier, like a used car salesman. I'm not just selling something that's, you know, that's not going to actually do what I'm telling you that it's going to do. I don't think I would have lasted in this if I wouldn't have started to, you know, have some of those clients with those stories like pretty early on who were confirming that this is working and their investment's working and this is, you know, this is a good thing. So I don't really think of myself as a salesperson. Like I do. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say like this, I'm working sales. I am a salesperson, but in like normal life, like I'm not gonna, if I leave this job, it's not going to be to go sell like medical devices or something like that isn't like the industry that I would probably stay in. I think I would want to veer more towards advertising and marketing because that's where like my passion lies, but it is 100% because like these products like work,
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's nice to get behind that when it, when it works and you can believe in it, and that obviously you've been there for a while, so that makes sense. We do have a couple questions. You saw the one that I was typing. This is
yeah,
from Colette, Jerry or Gary, probably Jerry.
Gary,
What is it?
Gary.
Gary. Okay. Um, how does your assistant Ruby Roo help and encourage you?
So that's my dog.
Oh,
Um,
I was like, that's kind of a badass name if that was a human name.
yeah. So my daughter was 4 when we adopted her, and she was gonna name her Tallulah Lala Loopsy. It's just like a side note, and we were gonna go
100%
with
love
it. We're
that.
like,
Love that.
yeah. We were like, that's fine. And then I remember on the way to like pre-K or whatever, one day we were talking about it, and she's like, I don't want to name her that. I'm gonna name her Necklace. And I'm like, what? And then she's like, maybe Tree, and just starts, like Ron Burgundy, like, I love Lamp. I'm like, your naming rights have been revoked. So we gave her a few names, and she did Ruby and then added Rue. So, anyways, that's also my neighbor who said that. But being a dog person, I mean, even though I think she was typing that to be kind of silly, yeah, I'm like a huge dog person. And talking about my little dog, she's got such a weird and funny little personality. I think it always gives you something to talk about.
Hmm. Yeah, and you said you're able to bring her on a shoot because you had to wait in the car, so you can bring your whole
Yeah.
posse.
I mean, yeah, she's very spoiled. I don't necessarily like believe that, but I mean, I really do love my dog. So, but yeah, I mean, I think anybody, I don't want to be like the creepy dog person, but she definitely gives me something to talk about.
Yeah, John and I are dog people, and we also have kids. Both of our dogs, actually, I don't think my dog died. My dog got sick, and we uh, traded her, gave her to a vet, which was great, a vet tech. So that worked out. John's dog has passed away, but I think we're
Oh,
both in the place where we're like, yeah, we definitely want dogs again. It's just got to be the right time for me and my
yeah.
wife. My kids have to be able to take care of the dog, so
Yeah.
that's going to be in a couple years, maybe, if my wife lets me have it. It might be sooner for John, but we totally get that.
They,
You
yeah. I mean,
can't,
there are times the dog is definitely like a bigger, I don't even want to say it, but like she can definitely be a little needier than my almost 9-year-old human.
yeah,
So
you
Yeah.
can't be a creepy dog person though. There's no term dog lady. It's cat lady is the term. So like,
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I am allergic to cats. Like I could love
Uh,
a cat if I had to, but I'm allergic, so that kind of saves me from even having to try.
you can love the cat, but the cat will never love you. Just know that.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
and we do have another question here. Let me throw that up. Let's see if I can do this right. Oops.
Well, I can go ahead and ask the question while Ryan is. Oh no, he got it. He got it.
That is not a
So
fair question.
this is from, let's see, to Lori Austin. Who's
Is
your
this from a business owner?
No,
yeah, I shouldn't have said the name because then maybe we'd see how you actually answer.
she she's my friend who was like, I was telling Ryan earlier, she's like, who are these people and why would they want you on a podcast? I'm like, yeah, I mean, fair question.
Because we want to have fun, to Lori. And this is a blast. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And you should also ask personal questions so Ashley has to answer them on the air. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. So who's your
Um,
favorite celeb or business owner?
well, I'm not going to say favorite business owner because I really have good relationships with, I think, most of my clients. So I don't want to say that there's a favorite. And I don't know that I have a favorite celebrity either. Like I watch a lot of like Dateline. I'm really nerdy with like true crime documentaries and that kind of thing. So maybe like Keith Morrison. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't really like. I'm officially the like old uncool mom where my almost 9-year-old. I hate to even say it, but she's closer. she's December 4th, but she knows more celebrity situations than I do. So I don't know.
Oh,
So we could
I'm
probably,
sure I could come up with something, but it's like on the spot. I don't know.
so we could have a pretty in-depth conversation about making a murderer then.
Yeah. Yes.
did you say
Yeah.
your daughter's birthday is December 4th? Did you say?
Yeah.
I'm the 5th.
Really?
Me and Britney Spears.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So great.
Oh, yeah. My celebrity
days
birthday
of-
partner is Martha Stewart. So
Oh,
there's
nice.
that.
How many days of the week does your daughter demand that you celebrate her birthday? Because for Ryan, it's several days. Usually he's got
I
a
leave
lot
it
of
on the
days
calendar.
lined out on the calendar. It says Ryan's birthday, but it's more than one day.
Hmm.
You just don't know when you're
Oh,
going to celebrate, honestly.
yeah. So she's like already celebrating. This year she's asked, well, first she asked for a surprise party. And I'm like, I just really like set the bar kind of high for her birthday expectations. And then one of her buddies had like a quarantine birthday party where it was just like three of them. And so now she's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing. So now she's got her plans of one of my best friends has a daughter who's 8 days younger than my daughter. And so like we went to high school together, we got to be pregnant together and do all that. So our girls are like, like sisters. And so she's like, okay, we're going to just have them come up. We're going to do a slumber party. We're going to go to the mall. We're going to do the everything you can carry challenge. And I'm like, whoa, what? And she's like, yeah, it's called the everything you can carry challenge, where we're going to go to Target and then we carry everything, like meaning her and her little buddy Molly, and then like you pay for it. And everything we can carry, you pay for it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know about that, but
Yeah.
last year we did, I think she had like 3 or 4 parties between like me and dad. It was like the friend party, the like super close friend slumber party, the family party, the party with, him and his side, and like the school stuff. It's just like, she's also like my only. So she's, the birthday, like I said,
Gets
it's
a little
already
spoiled.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
That's great. I think I need to update the calendar so that I can reflect that my birthday starts now or so and goes through the 5th. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from this conversation. How do you feel about that, John?
Well, especially in 2020, like you have to celebrate, and anything that makes you happy. I feel like that is anything that makes you happy that is healthy and safe and positive. I think should.
We do have another question.
Are these people? Well, I mean, I guess we know who both of them are.
Yeah. Well, and the other one is like my best friend, one of mine and my wife's best friend, who's an avid listener and watcher.
Okay.
She also alerts me when my mic's off, and she's very allergic to cats. So we would probably have cats or a cat, except she's very allergic, so we can't have one.
It's a shame.
So John, you want to ask that question while I'm typing it up?
Yeah, so she is asking what lessons you've learned in your career in terms of winning people over, getting in the door, convincing them that what you have is valuable.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that some of that, I mean, winning people over, I think is kind of a tough thing to say, because it's kind of like you have to kind of try to read people and match. I don't want to say match, but understand people's personalities to a certain extent too in any sort of sales. I can be kind of like bubbly and silly and goofy in normal life, but obviously know when to like flip on the hyper professional switch and maybe not be that way. In terms of convincing people, I don't know. I think that's where like my interest in research and data comes in, because rather than trying to just say like, oh, I've got this really great thing and you should try this, and just give me your money and I'll just prove it to you that it's going to work. I like to show like, here are how many people are watching, here's how many people how often they're going to have to see it to react, here's research from this independent company and this company that we subscribe to that's going to actually support that. And I have this client in this industry who's used this, or, or my coworker works with someone who has used this and has found a lot of success with it. So I try to minimize the risk for clients whenever possible, because at the end of the day, like I'm doing what I'm doing, but for most of these people, this is like their, just like you guys, like this is their company, this is their money, they're investing, and it has to work. And, if it doesn't work, it's not only is it on me, and even if it's really not on me, like it's still on me, because I'm I'm the face of my company. I'm the person who's putting the strategy together. A million other things could go wrong on the back end, but I'm the person that's going to get blamed. So like things have to go well. And even if I'm not getting blamed, like they're not going to work with me anymore, So, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you're doing right by them, and respecting that this is their livelihood, and they're entrusting you with putting a plan together. And so I really always do try to honor and respect that, because that's a huge privilege. I mean, not to sound cheesy, but it is. Like, I mean, that's a big thing to earn that from someone. So, and I think it's, that also is something that time, really speaks to. I mean, I have clients that I called on for years and years before they ever gave me a chance to meet. Which actually was one when we had this original meeting scheduled for this original podcast. I had to, reschedule it, because I was like, I can't turn down this meeting. I've been calling on this guy for like 4 years.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like part of that answer is it's less about winning people over and more about showing value or providing value.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like personality wise, if people don't like you, they're not going to like you, So as long as you can, I mean, hopefully if that's the problem, hopefully they'll still work with you and see a reason to like find value in what you're selling. But I mean, I don't know that there's a huge way around that, besides just trying to be, as friendly and personable and relatable as possible. Which I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I wonder if that's one of the things too that you found that helped you, in those first several years. I know it was probably good for me, and I've relearned a lot of it too over the last 6 years since we've had our director of operations or business director join our team, where he's taught us a lot more about sales and finances and things like that, kind of on the sales side, is kind of overcoming that idea and that fear of rejection, but understanding that it is more about that relationship. And, people are going to work with people that they like, and they're, probably not going to work with people that they don't like. So that's a big part of that relationship, and a big part of the importance is not necessarily changing who you are to be somebody that people like, but developing that side of you so that you can be just, fun, great, charitable, like, so people want to call you. So people, when they think of it, they're like, oh yeah, I want to call that person and run this idea by them, because and maybe it's sharing. For us, it's like sharing information, maybe sharing some idea that we think, hey, this could be really good for you, even if it's not a pitch per se, but it's just, building that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to kind of build on that too, just finding common ground with people, even if it's, I mean, like, earlier talking about the dog thing. I mean, I talk about my dog because I'm obsessed with her, but also it's like an easy thing that you can relate to with people, even if they happen to be a cat person, then they're going to tell you, and then you have something that you guys can talk about. I had my daughter. I always feel like I could have been on 16 and pregnant, but really I was like graduated through school. I had this job, like I felt very young, but having her also gave me like, I hate those. Every client I have knows a lot about my daughter, and, about just how silly and goofy we are together, and the funny things she says. And I mean, that's also like, I don't want to say I use her, but I mean, that's like being a parent is something that,
but it's a part of you
can relate to. Yeah. It's like the biggest part of my life. And I think that, being able to share all these like silly stories and stuff, that's something too that I can always relate to with people. So yeah, just finding that common ground, even if it's not my dog or my child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, being genuine, I think is, what you're getting to. Like,
Yes,
you're not
absolutely.
using things, but you're just being yourself. Um, that's one of the things that we've kind of learned and kind of, I mean, you experiment with these theories and then you try them out and then they start working and you're like, oh, I guess that was a pretty good idea, which was like, we're not going to try to pretend that we're somebody that we're not, some company that we're not. We're just, this is who we are, because you're going to find that out eventually if we actually win the job, if we land something. And you're not going to be happy if we're different than you thought we were or whatever.
Right.
Like, we just need to like be who we are, and then share the best, share our best ideas and go for it. And there's a risk in that. I've written about this in blog posts and shared about it. Somebody gave a great talk one time. There was a networking meeting for the Madison Media Professionals group, and a question came up, and they asked, "What do you do if you share a creative idea? How do you make sure that the person who you're pitching it to doesn't just take that idea and then go make it without you?" And the speaker gave it a genius answer. He said, "You don't.
Right.
You don't guarantee that." He said, "Your ideas are not that unique." He's
Mm-hmm.
like, like, your unique perspective on it might be a little bit different. The way that you do it might be something, but you have to put yourself out there. And I made the analogy with like relationships. Like, if you put yourself out there, you put yourself at the risk of being burned or hurt or rejected. But if you don't put yourself out there, you don't have the possibility of making any real connection, because you're always standing guarded, and the other, other person can feel that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because my general manager of the station was our general sales manager when I started. And, he put so much time into trying to train me and like get me to understand like sales. And so many of his analogies are about dating. Like now, I mean, it's kind of funny because whenever they haven't hired anybody super young in a while, but whenever a younger person comes on board and he's in the room, it's like you hear these dating analogies coming back up again, because he's trying to, relate to that person too in a way that they're going to understand. But it's true. I mean, yeah, exactly what you're saying. You have to put yourself out there and get the fear of rejection just kind of like out of the way. And yeah, a lot of those analogies are true.
That's great. So we do have another question from McKenna Marie. The question is, yay, Ashley. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So now you've been a part of AAF. Oh, I will say, okay, so I'm going to ask a question, but I will also say that we were a part of AAF, not Add 2.
Yeah.
And we might have been younger than we were supposed to be. I mean, don't tell anyone. But
yeah, I mean, I switched over at like when I had my daughter, just because the events for Add 2 at the time were typically after work and just, happy hour type things. And I was like, I got to get home to my kid. So
yeah, you're like,
yeah,
I'm
old. We do our happy hour at noon.
Yeah, exactly.
Noon,
I mean, I got to be
Friday.
to bed by like 7:30. So
what are kind of some lessons? You've been a part of AAF in various roles for several years now. What lessons have gone back and forth? What have you learned from AAF that you've taken over to the station? What have you learned there at NBC 15 that's really helped you in AAF?
Yeah, so I would definitely say just the way that I have learned to interact with people in both roles can help one another. The role that I'm in now at with AAF is obviously a leadership position, and I don't have that at NBC 15, and probably won't, because just the way that the hierarchy of sales goes is like the next step would be a sales manager, and that's not really a thing. at our station. We have sales managers is kind of what I'm getting at. So
Mhm.
anyway, kind of being in that leadership role and trying to keep people motivated and, and engaged is something that I'm trying to kind of learn on the fly. And I'm hoping that I'm at least keeping people positive and excited about what we're doing. But I think that just really always working with different personalities is is definitely something that I've learned a lot from, and I'm continuing to learn, and hopefully always will learn from. But I think that with AAF, when I first started on the board, there were a lot of I don't want to say older, but or senior. There were a lot of people that were on the board who were like my parents' age. I mean, I guess I'll just say it. So even that was kind of intimidating. It's like, why do they want me to volunteer to be on this board? These people own these businesses who, there was like one of the marketing managers at like CUNA Mutual was president at one point, and the owners of these ad agencies and stuff. And it was just kind of
Mhm.
that was kind of intimidating. But learning from these people and just getting the chance to talk to them and kind of find out, what they're doing within their own organizations that, and kind of pulling bits and pieces from that I can maybe apply to a situation with a client at NBC 15 or even share with coworkers and, that kind of thing. There's always a lot of, I guess, intermingling there. But with AAF, I think that for me personally, just working with people who are doing just different things in their daily life for their careers that are still within this industry and that I'm learning from, like people that are just doing more creative things, maybe I don't know. Let me just trying to think like people who are maybe working more on the agency side who can share some insight into certain strategies that they're using. I mean, there's always a lot that can go back and forth. I think that I learn a lot from AAF that maybe I don't immediately and directly apply to whatever I'm doing at NBC 15. But these educational sessions that we sit through, like this month that we had, our guest speaker was from Google, and he was talking about how to analyze, Google Analytics. And within our company, we sell, SEO and SEM and all that stuff. But I've never actually sat down and like dove into Google Analytics and figured out how
Mhm.
to like analyze it all myself because we have a template like overlay that makes it really easy for us. So things like that. I mean, just things that I think that make me a more solid professional in both capacities, I guess. I don't know if that really answers the question. I always feel like I'm kind of rambling, but I think that AAF makes me more well-rounded for NBC 15.
Yeah, and I
Maybe.
mean, you can certainly take that just that client experience, that client relationship experience as well, because whatever role you're in the on the board of AAF, you have to deal with so many different people, and in many cases, probably some divas. I mean, creatives are divas, right? So you probably have a
Yeah,
lot of experience, or maybe not have a lot of experience, but just your client relationship experience can help out in that regard.
You trying to call me a diva,
Oh,
Ryan?
100%. Yeah. Diva
I'm
John.
just I'm not a person who likes like drama in any sort of capacity. So I think that really trying to promote the team and keep people excited and motivated. Hopefully that'll just like I want everybody to get along. I don't think we have any divas. I think we've had really good people on the board for the last several years. So, but the biggest challenge I keep kind of coming back to is like it's not about me, it's not about our board, it's about our members who are paying to be a part of this organization and like what can we do? Like why would they be a part of this? And what can we do that's going to actually benefit them? So
Hmm.
that's the task at hand that I feel like I'm always just like beating the dead horse, like, okay guys, what can we do? But
Yeah, it's like keeping that, the goal in sight. And I think
yeah.
that could be tough for creatives as well. I certainly fall into that trap of, well, I want to do this thing because it's a cool thing or unique thing or artistic thing. And I always have to kind of pull myself back. And it's nice to have team members who help this as well. It's like, well, how does that serve the client? How does that serve the end? Because we could just be
Yeah.
starving artists. We could do whatever the heck we wanted to be starving
Yeah.
artists. We decided we wanted to be plump, well-fed artists.
It's true.
That's a really good point, though, because there are a lot of directions that we could go with AAF aside from our core programming and our American Advertising Awards. Those are really, like what our organization is known for. But we have our community outreach, we have our educational chair, and we have this partnership with Ad2. And I feel like there's so much we could do. And especially this year, I just had a call with our community outreach chair yesterday, and she's just got some really great ideas about ways that we can help some of these nonprofits in the community who are really struggling, especially this year when, obviously this is the craziest year in history.
Mhm.
So I want to, move forward with this, and then I want to move forward with that, but it's like, yeah, really trying to like narrow the focus and keep the number one goal in mind, and really make sure that everything else is feeding into that goal. And that we're not just being too scattered. And by we, I mean like me, because my brain, just like you, like goes kind of a million different directions and got to reel it in sometimes.
That's great. And we do have, let's see, let me cut. There we go. Transition, rather. We do have another question from McKenna. How do you approach selling in a time like COVID? And I'll broaden that a little bit. So maybe start with selling, but how do you approach selling and production, right? Because that's a large part of what we do.
Oh, absolutely. So, excuse me. So there are a few industries that are doing well right now through all of this, believe it or not. And so those would be the clients that I am talking to on not only to like sell and to make sure that they're like getting the most out of this situation that is benefiting them, but also just because like so many people are not doing well, it gets really depressing. So I try to call on some of these businesses, like, at least one of them a day, just to hear like, yeah, things are going great. It's our sales are through the roof. It's like, okay, good. Somebody is like doing good this year. So, or doing well this year. Excuse me. So I would say that you just have to have empathy for those who aren't doing extremely well. And I mean, this is not going to be like a record-breaking year financially, probably for any salesperson in this industry. You have to really understand that there are a lot of people who are terrified, a lot of business owners who are really afraid about what's going on. We just talked about this in our sales meeting yesterday. Excuse me. There are a lot of people who are really affected by these, safer at home and social distancing and everything. And this is really the time where you have to show up for your clients and remember, like, it's not about me. It's about their long-term success. We're in this for the long haul. I've been here, I think, going on 12 years. I think that proves I'm not just like here to like sell you and leave. So that, I mean, how do you go about selling in this time? Like you sell to clients who are actually, making money. And then you're kind of there to help people, to help strategize with people who maybe don't have money coming in, or having to put off plans until maybe second quarter of next year. I mean, it is what it is. You just have to be empathetic. That's part of this being successful in this role too. You can't just be out for yourself, because that's not what this is. Production. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's such a great point. That idea that selling is not just, hey, you should buy this. You bought it. We win. It's about the relationship, kind of like we've talked about the whole time. And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm not going to, you're not going to buy anything this year, but we're going to continue this relationship. And maybe I can help you out with something in some way, or provide a resource or whatever. Or at the very least, I can hear your frustrations. And I know that I provide that to some clients as well. And I think, when people think about sales, you're probably not thinking about, I don't know, just relationship management in the same way as once you're in it, you realize you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that's another area where AdFed does come in handy, because it's like, now that I'm in this leadership role with a nonprofit organization, I can relate to some of these clients in a bit of a different level too, because it's like, I see our financials, I hear from every member on the board, I know how stressed out and frantic people can be right now. Our membership base, I know that this, we're obviously a paid membership based organization. I know that this is one of the things businesses can cut from their budgets. I mean, so it's, being able to relate to people in that way too, but always trying to show them, even if you're not buying from me right now, like, here's a study that I found about what's going on in your industry that might be beneficial to you. Here's somebody I know who is finding, this is working for them. Maybe it could work for you too. So just always trying to be that, that partner and that resource. On the production side, I mean, we have a really good production team. Excuse me. We have our two main producers, our creative services director and our promotions manager, all really solid, talented people in every aspect. But I don't want to say but it's like, yeah, we have these COVID restrictions now, right? So, we've got one producer going out there for shoots. If we're going to be indoors, it has to be, a very ventilated building, just things that we clearly never had to think about before. People have to wear masks if they're not immediately on camera speaking. They're limiting the number of people that can even be indoors. So like, clients aren't able to come out to the station to sit in on edits right now, just because the editing suites are of course enclosed. We can't have clients coming to the station into the audio booth because it's, a tight situation where there wouldn't be able to be a mask. So I mean, I wouldn't say we've had a ton of issues with it, but there's workarounds for everything, but it's certainly not ideal, as I know you guys can relate to. But where you got to get creative,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of that idea too, that like, yeah, the world goes on, and the important thing is, we're doing everything that we can and taking precautions. And, I think that's the important thing, because people, when people are scared, you want to be able to reassure them that we can do this safely, simply, within budget, maybe a little bit more. But now is a very important time too, because, if you want to be here when all this ends, when lockdown ends, like, you can't stop operating. You can't stop, marketing. And certainly you're going to cut back some things. But in a time also when people can get, and hopefully soon can get, stimulus, we're looking for places like, how do we support local, right? So let's get our bug in their ear in marketing, through marketing, so they come to our location,
Yeah.
That's obviously a challenge, in this industry, is like, for some reason, I don't even know if it makes total sense to me, but that, marketing tends to be one of the first things that is cut from budgets.
Yeah.
And so then your job not only becomes more difficult, but also more important and kind of frustrating at the same time. I don't know the verbs I'm looking for, but basically you're like, what you want to tell people is like, don't throw it all away. Like, let's get creative if we need to, but like, you can't stop putting yourself out there, because people, the public in general is also scaling back. So then the people who are most successfully marketing are still out there, are going to be the ones that get the smaller pie of business. And it's challenging. Like, anytime a time like this comes in where you're just like, okay, I get it. I feel empathetic for you. Nobody has any budgets. I understand that. But you also, this is not what you should do. You can't just like not be out there.
Yeah. And so this conversation just is like right when I started at 15. Like I said, it was 2009. All these home improvement businesses were like, people they were shutting down, and then these people were going out on their own. And, it was just really tough. And I think marketing is one of the first things to go, because you have to keep the lights on in your building. You have to pay your employees, you have to pay your bills, you have to pay for your product. And I think a lot of businesses sometimes, not that they don't see the value in it, but they've got these other priorities that they have to, they need to address first. So I can certainly understand and respect that. And I think it's just about going about it in a way that is compassionate and empathetic, like John said, where you can show them like, you do need to be on. And I mean, there's that example of, Kellogg's and General Mills, and who stopped advertising during the Depression. And I think it was General Mills. And then Kellogg's, I think even to this day, still retains larger market share, and it traces back to that. So, but like, you can say things like that until you're blue in the face. And at the end of the day, for people during hard times, like, it is what it is. I don't know. That's like I was saying earlier, a lot of these people, it's like their own local business, and it's their own money that's going into this. So I can certainly understand, how marketing might not be the number one thing on their minds, but yet it should be. And it's so important, especially in times like this, especially when people are, I mean, I sell TV, people are at home. What are we doing? I've got TV on all day, which is really embarrassing to admit, but not that embarrassing. But
yeah, we all have to cope, in whatever way we can too. That's important. But
yeah.
And nobody noticed it at home, but John, the happy hour got the best of him. He just got back. You're right in that we can say these things till we're blue in the face, but somebody's $50,000 marketing budget, or however much it is, like if they can't pay their employees or they can't run their facility, it's unfortunate, but that's the first place, like John was saying, and you're saying people are going to grab, and we certainly don't want to fault anyone for making those types of decisions, because we all have to make those hard decisions. But at the same time, we try to provide whatever help we can in the understanding of it. Also, of like, and we understand this with ourselves, like we'll see sales start to go up, and then we get really, really busy, and then we stop doing these marketing things for ourselves, and then sales slow down. And so that's one thing we always say internally is like, when we're really busy, we need to make sure that we're marketing, because we're so busy with everything else that marketing is the first thing that we stop doing. And when we're not busy, along with the sales efforts that we have, has to be a major marketing effort, and it's essentially trying to keep that marketing at some decent level. And certainly during years of surplus, that can go up. But, when it's hard, and this is the pitch, you got to keep something in there and squeeze what you can and do, I haven't read that not General Mills, the Kellogg example, but, I mean, that's that case in point. And I think we see that in our own company. So how do we navigate that with other people? Because you're right. We could say that until we're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, they're like, well, I can employ 2 more people, over these couple months if I cut my budget. So it's difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's hard during tough economic times. I think with 2020, with COVID and social unrest and the election, and I mean, the West Coast being on fire.
And murder hornets.
What else has been going on? I mean, it's just like the one thing that I come back to personally, like even when, virtual learning, I can't even believe that wasn't the first thing that I said. That's like a whole other thing, but it's like we're all going through it though, right? So that's like what I come back to as like a parent and as a human, and it's like, okay, this isn't just me. I'm not the only working, parent that's trying to figure this out. We're all, it's cheesy, but like we are all in this together. We all have this common experience right now. We have had a couple of clients who have shot footage like on their cell phones that we've used. And that is clearly not a strategy we would recommend during normal times. But I think about like the Progressive commercials that came out during COVID, when they're on like the Zoom meetings and stuff, and how well those are just like, they're just so dumb and so funny to me. But like, when they're on like the Zoom calls, and then like the one girl's like on her phone, and they're like, hey, we can see you, and then it's like, oh, somebody's mute button's not, those kinds of things. It's like, larger brands are taking our situation and, I don't want to say making fun of it, but they're speaking to the climate that we're all in right now. So having a client have to film from home, and then somehow incorporating that into, their commercial, necessarily think is the worst thing either, because it's something that, you know, people on TV are like, well, you know, this is what we're all living with right now. We're just all trying to find workarounds, and we're all trying to find a way to keep going and to thrive somehow in this environment.
Yeah, and oops, the button didn't work. Click the button. There it is. We're live. Please also post more questions. We are kind of wrapping up here. I want to keep your time, be respectful of your time. So we will get to our 2 truths and a lie. But to that point, don't worry. You'll have a moment to write stuff down.
Okay.
We're producing, you know, when we produce small stuff with businesses, medium, small businesses, it's pretty easy to keep the crew small and, you know, not distract people and not have a lot of people. You know, we're not Hollywood having hundreds of people on set. So the COVID precautions are much easier in that regard for us. But we are also producing some things, one in particular with a celebrity, moving forward for like the next 12 months, like a series of PSAs and things like that. And so they're very open, but they also work in an organization that has very strict rules. So we're navigating that. We're also kind of coming up with a stopgap. We're like, hey, we have a need for the next couple months. We're going to do creative that's remote. So we're going to work with you and your team on the ground to produce something remote that we can do that's interesting and engaging and will promote us for the next couple months. And then we'll head out there in January or February and follow precautions and all that stuff. But then we'll shoot the heck out of it so that we have what we need for like 12 months. And so for production folk, it's kind of like part and parcel. You know, it's like, what are our restrictions? You know, what are all the issues that have come up and what's our parameters? Okay, I will figure out how to make it happen within these parameters. So I feel like production folk, while there was a lot of lockdowns that stopped production, we're some of the best people to handle this, because every day, every hour, a new challenge comes that it's like, well, that location's gone. What are you going to do? That person's gone, or this equipment is not here, or this just happened. You know, what are you going to do? We're so used to that it's kind of normal in a sense for us to just react to something else.
Yeah. Be creative on the fly.
Yeah. All right. So we are winding down here. I do want to get to 2 truths and a lie. If you haven't had a chance to write yours down, I'll give you a moment while I talk about the next couple of weeks of what's going on the show. Sound good?
Yes. I'm asking for help.
Just have your friend text you. Yeah. All your friends. Have them share some stories that you could share. So next week we are off. We're going to we're traveling for some live production. So we're going to be out of town and producing some content for the human trafficking prevention awareness campaign. So we're going to be up in the cities. Rob Perro, our creative partner and agency partner, will be interviewing and working with Bobby Joe and Kelly, and her last name is out of my head. But from the BCA and task forces that are involved in preventing human trafficking in Minnesota. So we're going to have a live stream. Rob's going to be talking to them, asking them how to spot human trafficking and sex trafficking and that stuff. It's really heavy. The people are really great though, and their work is obviously very important. So we'll be producing that next week. Next week, Friday, actually, you'll be able to tune in on Facebook. We'll share that. So please do keep an eye out for that. We won't have a show next week. And then the following week, we're going to do a hostful. You might have to rewear that shirt, John, and I'll wear mine.
Maybe I'll get another.
You should get another.
Maybe I'll hand knit one between now and then.
I would pay some sum of money to see that happen. That'd be amazing. We're going to have a hostful event because we're going hunting next weekend. This will be my second time going with you. It's going to be awesome. I assume.
We might have to film that some, although it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
It's challenging in that kind of extreme condition, but
Yeah, it's going to be great. I like to joke because last year was my first year. John graciously invited me along. I like to joke that you hunted and I just shot. I just pulled the trigger. I feel like I stole your deer to some extent because I got up. Literally, we were switching locations. I got up into his tree stand and within 15 minutes saw a crap ton of deer and shot the one buck. But it was such a great experience. I love it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about thankfulness. We're going to be doing a series on thankfulness. I think that hasn't posted yet, has it? I don't know.
Probably
I should know
not,
this.
'cause I still need to do my work.
I do too. We should do that after this.
Yeah.
But then we will be back the following week with another happy hour. I don't know who we have booked for that, Emily. If we have somebody booked for that, let me know. Otherwise, we'll let you know as the date comes sooner. So that's my vamp right now. How are we doing over there, Ashley?
So stressful. Nobody's helping me out.
It's like Final Jeopardy. It's like
I
that
know.
Well,
was if we had a song going, Ryan would be talking, and then we would wrap it up, and then it'd be time for pencils down.
I have so many like weird facts that are kind of like unique, but they're all true. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I have, okay.
So we'll save you for last too. So if you want to adjust it, you can.
Okay.
That's totally fine. I've been writing mine down, so I'll go first.
Okay.
My goal is always to confuse John, because we've probably done this like 40 times. So that's always the challenge. It's always fun. But I think these are some fun guessable ones. All right. So here's my 2 truths and 1 lie in some order. You don't even know. So in college, I was in an a cappella group. I was in Redefined, and we actually got to travel all over the place and internationally once, actually. But we traveled all over the country and once internationally to perform, not just for fun. I lived by the stadium in college, and we paid our utilities by selling parking spots for football games. So you charge like $20 for a spot, and we had how many? I don't remember. 9 spots or something? I can't remember. And then the third one is, this is very specific information. I dated my wife for 6 months. We were then engaged after that 6 months for 9 months. Now we've been married for 12 years and have 6 kids. I like your reaction.
And I know, John, you've got a lot now. You've 5, right? And a brand new one.
Got a bundle.
Cow, guys.
Yeah.
They just keep showing up.
You just one pant leg at a time, I think is.
Oh, that's awesome. I love babies and children.
And right now, I love other people's babies. Like, I don't want a baby right now. I love my 6 that I have.
It's killing me. Like all these friends that I have that keep like having children during this, and I can't go meet them, and I can't snuggle them. It's like, here's mine's right here.
Yeah.
And you can't get a dog. They're all unavailable right now.
I know. Well, I mean, my dog's not very nice, so I don't think she would really want like a brother or sister.
You just spend a lot of money. The other funny thing is my wife just showed me a picture of like 2 twins yesterday, 2 baby twins. And I definitely love babies and other people's babies. But I have that like male biological, like it doesn't look like me. I don't like it. So she like showed me the 2 babies and she's like, isn't this the cutest thing ever? They're cooing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they're kind of ugly babies.
I just found out
doesn't
like
look
what you just said. I never knew that was like a real thing with men, that like babies look more like their fathers because of that.
Yeah. Because otherwise we'll be terrible parents.
Think of lions, It's
yeah.
You can say hi. You can say hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
This
Here,
is
let me.
mine.
Oops. Let me switch it over. There we go. Hi, what's your name?
Celiana.
What?
Celiana.
You're not shy.
Ciliana?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
She wants
nice
a
to
snack.
meet you. I dig your glasses. Those are really cute.
Thank you. I got new one.
Did you?
Are you shy
Nice.
right now? Mwah. Okay. All right. I don't know. Yours are careful.
Yeah, so I'll
Yours,
recap. The
yours are really
ridiculous
good.
amount of detail of my with my wife.
Mhm.
College, I was in an a cappella group and we traveled nationally, internationally. And I lived by the stadium and we paid our electric bills by selling spots for the games.
I think that's the lie because I don't feel like you can lie about your wife. And the acapella group is just like too niche. And I think like anybody, I mean, you could like the thing about the parking spots, I think, reasonably most people could like come up with that,
Sure.
So I think like it's not common, but I think that like that's a solid story.
Number 3. That's your vote. All right, what do you got, John?
I think so.
Oh, this is a tough one. Also, I'm being swayed because of Carolyn's guesses, but I do. What was I going to say before? So I don't know if it's a detail about your marriage. Let's see. You could be trying to trick us with that. How long have I been married?
Also, this is our youngest. My wife shares how great it's going at home. Let's see. Oh, it's so bright. Hang on. Let me see if I can change that.
Aww.
What you can't see is that she's got lipstick all over her face.
We've
Oh.
been there. It was just a picture on his cell phone, babe.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
Okay, I'm going to go with the maybe you never traveled internationally with Redefined. Boy, that's believable though, but unless you've been married for 13 years and not 12. I don't know.
Number 1 is correct. Those are all the correct numbers. I had to think very hard, but those are correct numbers. Number 3 is also correct. We did pay our utilities. I think during football season, we were able to basically cover our utilities by selling those spots. And then we never traveled internationally. We traveled nationally. So I've been to the East Coast and somewhat west. I'm trying to think. Maybe somebody who's watching, if Paul's watching, you can let me know how far west we went. I feel like we went out to like Oregon or something. But yeah, that was it. Those are my 2 truths and a lie. So John, just reigning champ, he can smell a lie a mile away.
I gotta up my game here. Like
It's all right.
Those are
It's
really
hard. It's hard when you don't know everyone's stories and you don't have a LiDAR like
well,
John does.
we always do just like such a basic fact, like I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, like I'm colorblind, like it's that kind of thing, which was the suggestion.
That's a good one. I could say I'm colorblind, but I'm not. I'm deficient.
Oh,
All
really?
right. Yeah. But now it's time for John.
Okay.
All right. What do you got, John?
All right. My wife's mom, my mother-in-law, used to show llamas in competition.
Way to tie it to earlier.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
And
That?
like through 4-H or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Number 1, Mama Llama.
Number
Yep.
2, when I was in about 2nd grade, I used to somewhat regularly play with matches with the neighbor across the street under the pine trees.
It's a great inane one. Unless it was your sister.
This is probably the first. My parents probably haven't heard of that before. I think we're past the statute of limitations.
Yeah, 100%.
Number 3. I don't do well with shots and blood. I once lost consciousness after getting the flu shot for an hour or two, and then had to wake up and leave after laying in a room by myself for a while.
Was this in regards to donating, or you said the flu shot you passed out for 2 hours?
This is a flu shot.
Huh. All right. So number 1 is your mama llama, or your mama llama in law.
But yes,
Used to show llamas at 4-H or whatever. Sounds real legit, John. Playing fire with your friends, or playing with matches with your neighbor. Or you hate shots and blood and you passed out. So that's what the statement? You hate shots, or what's the statement?
I'm just telling you I don't do well with them.
Okay.
But
you said shots and blood.
Yes.
Okay.
So detailed.
Yeah.
Man.
We only cheat occasionally, but we don't cheat intentionally.
Okay. I think that the last one has to be fake, because I don't think that, like, you can't pass out for 2 hours right from a flu shot. Like, that just seems like,
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it should be minutes, maybe. Like,
yeah,
I only
like 2
passed out
hours.
one time as a kid from like just a temperature. Like my temperature went up so fast, my brain couldn't
Yeah.
handle it, so I passed out for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 hours just seems like that's like emergency room
Yeah.
time, I think.
All right.
I'm going to go with that.
So number 3 for Ashley, and then
Yeah.
do post your guesses at home. I'm going to go with number 3 as well, because you talked me through gutting a deer last year, and I was like, and then your brain kind of makes a switch. John made this point, and it's very true. It goes from animal to just meat, and once you're in meat or animal, meat land, you're like, oh, it's just fine, it's cutting up, but making that change took me like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. John probably should have recorded it and would have loved to have. I would have loved you to have shared that, because it probably was ridiculous. So, since you are a hunter and you coached me through cleaning my first year, I'm going to say number 3 is the lie, along with Ashley.
Well, it's unfortunate you both lost.
No.
My mother-in-law used to have a horse.
Luke
I don't
says
know-
number 1 on a technicality.
I don't know if she actually showed it or anything, but no llamas. Amanda, my wife, is interested in getting a llama for no apparent reason.
Like sheepdogs and llamas. So
Yeah,
they do not work well together,
guard
because
llama.
my wife's family, they have the llama. Their sheepdog killed the llama because it's like a threat to the sheep or something. I don't know. It just was threatening. And apparently, like, sheepdogs and llamas don't get along. So if you get a llama, John, you can't have a sheepdog. You got to have some other.
Yeah. All right.
Should've known.
It's because you can use a llama as like a guard animal.
Maybe that's why. Yeah.
They're very like protective.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
People will get like goats and like one llama, because the llama will like get after anything that goes for the goats or the sheep.
Just
Yeah.
like a mama llama.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
that's why, other than that it rhymes.
Play with matches. That's an unfortunate fact of my childhood.
I knew that was going to be true.
Yeah, you burned the neighbor's house down, and they've haunted you ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and I know it's psychosomatic, I even try to overcome it. I try to talk myself into it. Like, I don't have an issue. Like, I can cut up a deer if we're like get a deer or whatever, or I can hunt pheasants and pick them up off the ground and get them ready to go. When I get like a tiny little needle in my own arm, I can't overcome it. Like, mentally. And I lost consciousness. I don't know. Maybe I accidentally cheated, like we talked about, but I I lost consciousness and then I like slept, or I was like asleep, and I woke up like a couple hours later, and I was like
You're like, also, I was just very tired.
in this exam
Yeah.
room, you know,
Man.
and then got up, and I don't like I just couldn't handle it. My body was just like, nope, we're done with this.
That
And
seems like such a long time to pass out though. Like that's really concerning.
I mean, maybe they didn't bother like shaking me awake or whatever. I don't know if they're just like, we'll just let them.
They didn't give you the smelling salts.
But
We'll,
it's your own body though. So
We'll
like
just-
you like your wife got to have all these babies and like you were fine there.
well, I never had
Oh.
any issues, but I did get a little faint with one of our children for whatever. I don't know why
Okay.
it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a story that I've heard now that you're saying that. It's
Yeah.
just like in the delivery room or whatever. Like, I think you had mentioned like, yeah, you felt a little lightheaded, wobbly for a moment there.
Yeah.
Birth is pretty graphic, yeah.
So remind me to bring needles if I ever want to make you pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, only if you poke me.
No, but I'll just get one of those like Hollywood ones that it just retracts. It'd be
Yeah.
great. But I won't tell you, except for now.
I can't wait.
All right. The points don't matter, but John, you have 1. Ashley and I have 0.
So I lost.
You can still win.
Because I'll know my own lie.
Exactly.
All right. I think I'm ready.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So my first one has to do with my level of clumsiness.
Did you say
And
clumsy or cleansely?
clumsiness?
Okay.
Yeah. So so I went to visit a family friend a few years ago in Kansas City, and our first night there, I ran down her stairs and tripped over the last one and broke my foot
Oh no.
in 2 places on the first night of our vacation. And so I had to, I walked around Kansas City with a broken foot, like bought crutches, just like really toughed it out so that we could like eat barbecue and go to the breweries in the Bible Belt with a broken foot. And then I, came home, did the whole thing, realized it was broken, wore the boot for 6 weeks. And then the night before I was supposed to go to the doctor for my follow-up to see how my foot healed, I dropped, those Himalayan salt lamps that are like meant to bring you calm and like peace and tranquility. One of those fell on my same foot and then broke it
Oh my
in the
gosh.
same spot. So that's number 1.
Broke it on vacation, came back, Himalayan
Broke it.
smelling salt, broke it again.
Yep, the peace lamp.
Peace lamp.
Yep. So, okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be that we have a fair fish who is 6 years old, who lives in
That sounds like the
untreated-
worst.
He's like the nightmare of my life, and I just can't flush him because Madison has just made me into like way too much of a tree hugger. Like
it's
can't.
100% natural.
It is.
I'll
I
give you that.
know. It's like he lives in untreated tap water. He's not even a real goldfish. He's like a brown fish that you would feed to other cooler fish. But he just keeps living, and I don't know why, but he is 6, and his name is Forehead. So
These are good. These are really good.
I'm really trying to get like super detailed. Like you
Those
guys
seem very truthful.
totally like blew my mind with your level of detail. So I'm like really, I have like a whole new game here.
You'll
So
be ready the next time you play this with friends, because
oh my
know
gosh.
what to do. They'll be like, "What? I don't even know how." It sounds like a whole story.
Well, we usually play it with like new employees, and my go-to is always like I've never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I'm allergic to peanut butter. So people are always like,
Oh.
what? You know? So that's like one of my, but I already said that earlier. So I'm like, I can't do anything with peanuts. Okay. So my last one is that before I got my dog, my partner at the time did not want any animals. So I was like trying to do all this research on what kind of pet we could get that would maybe like not drive him crazy aside from Forehead the fish. And I landed on pigs. And so I did a ton of research first on like what it would take to, you know, to have a pig and how smart they are and all that stuff. So same fall, I took my daughter with our friend that I mentioned to like a play farm in the area, and they were selling baby pigs for $75 each, and you could just like take it home with you that day. Like you go to the pumpkin patch, you pick out your pumpkin, and you can take home a baby piglet. And so my friend took the girls and played and did like the whole thing. And I like missed out on all the pumpkin patch fun because I held a baby piglet the entire day. Decided like I want to adopt this piglet, but this might be like the time that my family breaks up if I come home with a pig. So I did go home and did like, you know, even more research on this, came up with like this idea of like a tiny pig that you could adopt, and then discovered this whole industry that I was not aware of about like pig ownership and how surrender rates are like in the upward, you know, like 89% to humane societies, and pigs are like as intelligent as a 4-year-old kid, and all this crazy statistics about, you know, people adopt them. There's no such thing as a tiny pig unless it's malnourished or inbred, like all this stuff, right? So I then, the end of the story is like kind of non-eventful because it's like, did I get a pig? Or did I write to the owner of the farm a very strongly worded letter about how disappointed I was that they would just give these pigs out to people for $75 each without doing a background check? And
Did I or did I not? I don't know.
Did I not? I mean, I guess this is where I'm bad at this.
Wow, no,
Okay,
you are so good because it's so detailed. No idea.
So I have a dog, and so I guess the wrap up of that story is that I don't eat pork because of this whole experience with pig. So that's number 3.
You're like the technicality is I eat more pork now that I know they're more sentient.
Yes. Yeah. Ugh. And also, you know, pigs are the only other mammal that can get a sunburn. So
Aw, poor pigs.
That's why they roll around in the mud. And you guys probably know that pigs will eat anything. Like they'll digest anything.
Yes.
I watch enough true crime. Like you want to get rid of a body.
Yeah.
Like
be careful with kids at the farm around the pig pen.
Yes.
That was an important lesson.
So
think of
we
all
need to recap.
There's so many uses for a pig though. I mean, I don't know why anyone would turn it back into the Humane Society. Like,
well, because they'll rip your house apart, because they'd be like leaving a 4-year-old kid at home, and they're not, you know, I don't want to say smart enough, but like they don't have the skills to like, you know, police themselves and not get into stuff. So they're going to be naughty. And if there's not really a tiny pig, like any real, like, you know, nourished pig is going to get big. So you've got this like 400-pound sow running around your house, like, you know, getting into your tech. I don't know, like,
I don't know. Still sounds like a viable pet.
I mean, but they're sweet, and they can, you know, they can like understand you, and they can be like, if you ever want to snuggle with a pig, I think it would snuggle. I don't know. But then another reason why the surrender rates are high. These are like also PS list of things that like when I posted this, people are like.
So let's just be clear. I think number 3 is true.
Okay. So So, but like, okay, so another thing though is that you can't have pigs within most city limits. So that's another reason why people are adopting
Oh.
them, thinking you can have like a potbelly pig, but you can't because they're considered livestock. Okay, so to recap, number one,
And
broke the foot in Kansas City, rebroke it on a salt lamp in Madison. Number two, forehead the fish. Number three, the pig.
Pigs are people too. Number 3. So I'm gonna say number 3 is true. There's so much story there. I'm gonna say number 1's true. There's so much story there. Number 2 had the smallest amount of story. That's the only way I can differentiate between these 3. Like, you tell stories very well, very believable. If you told me any of these, I would just be like, what? But I have to pick one. So I'm going to pick number 2, the forehead fish. So that's my vote.
Okay.
I'm also going to pick number 2. At first, I wasn't, because you related it back. You were talking about the fair with the pig, and then you said like forehead. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting detail to put that back in there that you wouldn't necessarily think of if you were lying about it. But then when you retold your story about breaking your foot, you added a detail you forgot to tell them the first time, that you rebroke it. I don't remember hearing that.
No, with the salt lamp.
Maybe I wasn't paying
The
attention.
the night before I went, I was supposed to be done with the boot. My salt lamp fell on my foot and rebroke it. So then I had to wear it for an additional 3 weeks.
So, which is why that one's true and the second one is false.
All right. All right. So you're both wrong. Forehead the fish is in my daughter's bedroom right now. And the number 1 is actually 100% true, except the salt lamp fell on my foot and it re-broke my toe. Not my foot.
I want a button that's like technicality.
It really is.
There you go.
Your guys' were so detailed. So I'm like, okay, it was the toe. And you know what I should have thrown in there, though, is I had to wear the boot for only 3 more weeks, which I did just say, but I should have put it in the first story because the toe only took 3 weeks to heal. So that was kind of, maybe cheating.
You got us.
Yeah.
Forehead the fish is like the complete, like, bane of my existence. I just said it the other day, and my daughter, I think, just loves it because we've had it for so long. And I'm like, I didn't want the fish. I didn't I have to clean it now.
It's probably been a large part of her life too.
It is always a part of my two truths and a lie, because also she was 2 when we got this fish, and it came with 2 more fish that died immediately. But she just, remember, she was in the back seat of the car, and we're like, what are you going to name your fishies? And without a second thought, she goes, forehead, eyes, toes. And we're like, all right. So
yeah.
2 out of 3 died, and I was like, well, forehead's the best name. So
yeah, I mean, you should have known eyes and toes were going to die. I mean, it's pretty clear, right?
Yeah, of course.
You should have known that forehead is not a easily made up name for a lie for this game. So
I assumed it was a friend's story. That's what I assumed.
Yeah. All the pig stuff is really true, and I try not to eat pork.
I believe you.
Believe it or not, all that detail.
Yeah,
you just got me. I'm just thinking about bacon.
I know. I really want bacon right now. That's all I got out of this. I want some bacon.
If I had a pet pig and I came home and it had destroyed the couch because it was bored or whatever, we would be eating bacon.
This is where I'm just like not a hunter, and I've always been a little bit weird with meat, but the pig thing, after like snuggling that baby pig at least that entire day, I'm like, I can't even do it anymore. If you accidentally sneak a little bacon into, like, from Jones Dairy Farm into my breakfast quesadilla at Pancake Cafe, I might pretend like I don't notice. But like that, that's only been an accident, I'm sure. So
that's an amazingly specific example too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
All right.
Never happened before.
So this has been a blast. Thank you so much for coming on,
thank
Ashley.
You. This was fun.
Yeah, the time really flew. Is there anything you'd like to promote, AAF or otherwise?
AAF always. Check us out on Facebook, online for our programming. We do have, I don't think I mentioned this here, we will be sending out a survey at some point soon to our membership base to get some feedback on what people are looking for and hoping for from us. But even before that, always feel free to send a message on Facebook, send us an email, let us know what we're doing well, what we can improve on. That is, as I mentioned several times, our biggest goal is to serve our members and to be able to, to get through this crazy year in one piece and make sure that we're still doing right by you. So that's the biggest plug. Otherwise, for all of the businesses that I work with, especially, you guys mentioned it too, just really try to support your local businesses, especially going into the holiday season. I think Madison, that's one of my favorite things about this community that people do really, really well. But just keep that on your minds. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And like I said, we're out next week. Tune into that community discussion for human trafficking prevention awareness campaign. We're back the following week for a hostful, so tune in. Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on, making time in your busy schedule. John, as always, you had to be here, but it's been a real pleasure.
Likewise.
All right, that's all we got. Bye.
All right.